You're listening to the Unlocking Africa podcast.
I'm a non-conformist. Few things were my inspiration. I've always been asking questions. In the past, people thought that African wealth was our oil, our gold, our manganese, our quota. No, I think it's the young people of the continent. Aya became a name that was given to me on a silver platter. It is part of where I come from. You know that Shantis have something we call the Adinkra symbol. Aya has positioned themselves as the bridge between talent and businesses in the continent. Upwork, Fiverr, and Delaware, all together and making it focus on early-stage startups, both in Africa and outside Africa.
Stay tuned as we bring you inspiring people who are unlocking Africa's economic potential. You're listening to the Unlocking Africa podcast with your host, Tessa Adamu.
Welcome to the Unlocking Africa podcast, where we find inspirational people who are doing inspirational things to unlock Africa's economic potential. Today, we have another special guest. We have Eric Annan, who is CEO and founder of Aya, a web-based gig platform that enables startups and businesses to access the best African skilled talent. Welcome to the podcast, Eric. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Enjoying the holidays of our greatest president, the former president of Ghana, the first president, Kwame Nkrumah, who happened to be known as the greatest president of all time in Africa.
I agree.
So it's quite a moment for us today in Ghana.
I agree 100%. The king of Pan-Africanism. Absolutely. I hope you're also doing well with the Queen's funeral. Yes. We had a bank holiday to remember the Queen and obviously the funeral. So yes, it's been a interesting time in the UK and I guess globally as well, losing such a historical figure.
Sure. Her soul rests in perfect peace and we wish to see her works continue in the global space. Yes.
Amen. So before we start, I was hoping you could introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about Eric Annan.
Oh, wow. So Eric Annan is quite interesting personality. The more I add to age, I get to realize that I'm a non-conformist. And growing up as a child, few things were my inspiration. I've always been asking questions. And I remember asking my dad, age 11, why are people poor? And he looked into my face and told me, people are poor not because they choose to be poor. But people are poor because the few in our society who have access to resources are just not kindness to offer access to the majority. That's why a lot of people are poor. And that became something that I look forward every day, every morning to say, how do we change that? So I'm a Ghanaian by birth, African by identity. I've been a student leader all my life from primary school to the university. I remember in the secondary school, I was a house prefect and taking my house to an excursion at the Cape Coast Castle. That was how I connected the question I asked my dad to what I saw in the Cape Coast Castle at the gate of no return. And that's how my awakening began, seeing how in the past, people were maimed and were taken as slaves to other parts of the world without their consent. And for me, what he told me was, I can choose to be a victim of the past, or I can choose to be a light of the future. And I chose to be a light of the future. And in my lifetime, to create a lifelong memory for young people behind me. My success will not be determined by how much I have in my account. I want my success to be determined by how many people I help, inspire, and uncover their talents. Because I want to live like Nkrumah, who never dies. So that's all about Eric.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Eric. So you've given us great insights into who you are. You've always asked questions and being curious, which is one of the key attributes of being an entrepreneur, being curious, always asking questions, looking for solutions. You are the founder and CEO of Aya. So I was hoping you can tell us a bit more about the company, why you started it and what you hope to achieve.
That's very interesting. So before I go into that, I would love to give a bit of a background. in 2015, I and my friend left Ghana to Nigeria, of course, abroad. So Jerry was my university friend. We were all student leaders. He was the president of the Ghanaian Private Universities Association of Ghana, and I was the financial controller. So he happened to come to my school to work, and I met him whilst I was in town. I introduced him to a business, which was networking business where voice over internet protocol. So he advised that, Eric, the way Ghana, we are not very enthusiastic about money and business. Why don't we look at Nigeria? Because my dad was a diplomat who lived in Nigeria, and I know how Nigerians are very, very open-minded.
Yes.
So I agreed. And guess what? I left my 1 month twins with their mom and joined my friend, bought a ticket, and we traveled to Abuja, Nigeria on the 4th of July, 2015. That's how my journey of entrepreneurship really started. In Nigeria, our business started taking shape until in August, where the Central Bank of Nigeria issued a policy where you could not deposit dollar or withdraw dollar in August of 2015. And that made our business crumble. A stroke of a pen. Why? Because we needed to transfer the money to the company in Singapore, our membership account. Unfortunately, things became very south. Went south. And I told myself, I saw two things in Nigeria. My friend introduced to our business a banker sent her to one of the most respected Nigerian in Abuja, who happened to be the head of service by the name Mr. Kifasi Danladi. And we were hosted and treated as human beings. The respect, the camaraderie, the support, and everything. So two things came to my mind. Wow, and I will never get this in Ghana. That's the truth. No big man will just receive you in his home and say, come to my house anytime you want. This is your home. Added as a family, without knowing me from nowhere. It will never happen in Ghana. That's the truth. Brutally honest here. I'm a Ghanaian, but I saw that humility, that acceptability in Nigeria. And I told myself, okay, even though the business didn't work, I will still stay in Nigeria and go through the pain of sacrifices. So we stayed on, and somewhere in 2016, a friend I met in a hotel called me that, hey, Eric, are you in town? I said, why not? Yeah, I'm in town. He said, okay, can we meet? I said, why not? We met, and he introduced me to blockchain and cryptocurrency. And that was going to be the game changer for me, Eric. And we joined that blockchain cryptocurrency. Obviously, eventually, it turned out to be not correct. It was not a great product. It was used called one coin. We didn't know anything about the whole technology. So it was the first initiation. But after 3 months, I realized that, this thing was not real cryptocurrency. Why? Because I read a book by Thomas McMurray, who wrote about the rise and fall of digital currency, the 7 disruption. And that book actually opened my eye to the possibilities of this innovation called the blockchain. So I took it serious, and I built the first OTC platform in Nigeria. At the time, there was only one platform called NairaX.
Okay.
And I built that OTC platform called Digital Kudi. Guess what? By 2017, I transacted well over $10 million in Bitcoin. People come to me, they buy, I sell Bitcoin. So in December 2017, I took a break, a vacation to Seychelles. And I had a bigger dream. Say, look, this cryptocurrency is going to be the future. Unfortunately, there was a research that showed that Africa did not have any exchange at the time. There was a research that was conducted by Cambridge showing that 27% of cryptocurrency exchange were from Asia. The rest was from Europe, and Africa had only just 4. And it was just quite fascinating to see that why are we going to still be consumers of this innovation? I told myself, no, we need to do something about it. And that's why I co-founded QubitX with a friend I trusted so much. I gave everything a friend could give, spend my resources on him without asking for a penny. I trusted and asked him to join on this exciting journey with another guy from Angola. So we're 3 co-founders. QubitX was the first cryptocurrency exchange in Africa to partner with InterSwitch. As a matter of fact, let's say QubitX actually helped InterSwitch with their blockchain strategy.
Oh, wow.
And as I speak, InterSwitch has built a Pan-African payment system, which my company sat on a table with InterSwitch to have a roundtable discussion all the strategy. We spent money. Our head of business strategy, made them in London, traveled down. We did all the conversation, and eventually it was agreed. We didn't get one penny from InterSwitch. We spent our own money as a startup to support the Pan-African journey. And I'm happy that eventually my company, Vitesse, didn't work. It failed due to this, my co-founder, had his own plan. Eventually, I sent them to Mexico on an invitation by Stella Foundation. And these guys went there, and then they met another guy. They did their own thing, came back, started a new company. Eventually, I could see that the marriage was not going to work. So I just left, and I asked them that no problem. I believe not every marriage should go, for a long time. I voluntarily left the startup, and eventually it failed. And in 2021, the whole world saw that Kubitel didn't work. I'm happy that I was one of those guys that actually started an amazing journey when it comes to the blockchain and cryptocurrency, and the vision we had as a Pan-African cryptocurrency platform, where we had over 17 countries, 17 people across the continent. We built a Pan-African team, and we were able to move around the continent and brought that awareness. And today you see a lot of cryptocurrency exchange around Africa. I would say that history will never forget that, Eric, I played a role. And my role is something I say. My success is inspiring people, uncovering talents, and inspiring people to get things that they don't even know they could do, but now they are doing. So for me, that's where I measure my success. Nobody can write the story of Africa cryptocurrency exchanges and blockchain movement without eliminating my name as far as Nigeria and Africa is concerned. So after the Kubites failure, I told myself, team and wrong team and bad people working with you could affect you. That's why Aya became an idea. And why Aya, we're going to it. So Aya is a problem that I faced as a founder, a co-founder of an amazing, promising startup that had all the ticks to be a very successful unicorn in no time. Unfortunately, we couldn't maximize that opportunity. So I decided to solve that problem for millions of founders who happen to face the same problem I faced between 2018 and 2021 June.
Amazing. You've detailed your journey starting Aya due to some of the opportunities and challenges you faced prior to that. So I was just curious, why the name Aya? What does it mean?
That's another interesting question. So if you follow my trajectory, you realize that there's one thing that runs through me. I am someone that never give up.
Yes. I
am someone that believes in sacrifices. I am selfless to the core and loyal to value.
Brilliant.
So when that came, it was very, very catastrophic. Waking up to see that all your hustle, in fact, just to add to it, because I invested my own savings, accumulating almost $1 million in cryptocurrency. I sold all my cryptocurrency savings to support the company. Yes. As of 2021, June, July, it will give me $1 million in cash. But guess what? I sold everything between 2018 and 2020 to support the team, some of them paying their bills, their house rent, supporting them, some of them in Canada, supporting them with their laptops, everything. Human beings, you just want to ask yourself, you want friends who will smile with you even when the going become tough, not friends who just come to you when they smile to share. So these were some of the very deep pain I went through, but I asked myself two things. Eric, you have two choices to make. You have a choice to remain in the pain, or you have a choice to move forward with gratitude. And I chose to move forward with gratitude. And I looked back and I told myself, I cannot erase, add, delete whatever has happened in the past, but I can always strive forward and unlock exponential goal and value, because what is ahead of me, I don't know, but I know going forward, giving much, much more than staying in the past. So Aya was a dream. I slept and I had a dream about the name Aya. So it was not something that I will have to research, in the own system of the universe. Things work, because when people are determined to do something, the universe conspire in their favor, right? So yes. Aya became a name that was given to me on a silver platter. Then I searched, and I read that it is part of where I come from. That Shantis have something we call the Adinkra symbol. So that Adinkra symbol, Aya is one of them. So Aya literally means endurance and resourcefulness. But as an entrepreneur, I realized that no, endurance is not enough. So I replace endurance with resilience, because resilience is the embodiment of my beliefs and my strengths. So replace endurance with resilience. So to us at Aya as a company, Aya means resilience and resourcefulness. So why Aya? We choose Aya because we believe Africans, if you look at the challenges across the continent, you wake up, you don't have electricity, you wake up, you don't have water, you wake up, inflation is on the high, your currency is very low, incomes are not growing, no social welfare, nothing yet. Our mothers will go to the farm, they will go to the market, they will sell cassava, they will sell plantain, they will sell yam or oil, and so make food for the family. And therefore, if you see the African as African, every African has a bit of resilience in them. We just have to commercialize it. We just have to let the world know that despite our challenges, we don't wake up in our hands in despair, crying. You can't see that in America or in UK. People go mad. Mental health will be on the increase. Imagine waking up and no electricity for 2 hours. Yeah. But here, sometimes a week, you don't even see electricity. Sometimes a month, no water running through your taps. But guess what? People are not complaining. They are moving on. They are drinking their spring water. They are drinking their borehole water. So, Aya, for us, we want to now tell the story of the African through the wealth of our people. And I dare to say, that in the past, people thought that African wealth was our oil, our gold, our manganese, our coltan, our coltan, all those minerals. No, I think the future of Africa is the young people of the continent. It's the only continent that is young. It's the only continent that is going to grow younger. All other continents are seeing their plateau. They are seeing their decline. They have reached their optimum. And in the natural law of economics, you get to a level, you have to come down, right? And Africa is about to rise. And our most precious asset is the young people. And we need to unleash the resilience of our young people so they can create value for the world. Because Africa also, we are the only continent that embraces everybody. We are the only continent that really believe in the power of togetherness. And we are going to make that happen. That's why Aya became more or less a natural name for us in this journey.
Brilliant. So you've detailed that Aya means resilience, and there is a certain type of resilience that differentiates African talent to those from other parts of the world, which I 100% agree with. But how did you identify that there was a need for this business?
Interesting. So before we set off, we spoke to about 500 young people from 7 countries in Africa: Nigeria, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Uganda, Rwanda, Ghana, Togo, South Africa, and Zambia, which we didn't do in my previous startup. When we spoke to these people, and also have a privilege, I've traveled about 17 countries so far in Africa, and I saw with my own eyes and my own observation, because I learned very fast through observation. I observed that if you went to Zimbabwe, you see a crop of special talents that are being disenfranchised because of where they are, right, to your location. If you went to Zambia, in Lusaka, you see young, active, enthusiastic talents who are eager to learn tech because they have seen, in Nigeria, Flutterwave have raised this money, Paystack has done this. So the story of success became a kind of a hook. The same way if you go to Dar es Salaam, you see young people. So we spoke to them. So what is your major challenge? The major challenge was that, we have the skill, we realize that we can do freelancing, but if you went to Upwork or you went to Fiverr, it will take you months to get a gig. And the kind of process you go through, they don't even know that you can do it. They don't trust you. Even when you get a gig, sometimes getting a payment becomes trouble. Because in many parts of Africa, PayPal do not work. Even before now was the major payment platform on Fiverr and other platforms, right? And even when they use other means of payment, the payment comes in their local currencies and they lose 25% of their income to exchange rate differentials. Because you and I know that in Africa, we have 2 exchange rate markets, the bank rate and the parallel market or the black market. So these guys get income and the banks give them the local exchange rate according to the bank rate, and then this bank go and they sell it on the open market. So frankly, these guys are working, but they are not making anything. And if you spoke to businesses, they also tell you, I wanted to hire somebody from Zimbabwe. He's good, but I don't know how to pay him, right? I saw a guy in Nigeria. The guy is good. He's a UI designer. I wanted to hire him, but I don't know how to pay him. So payment plus lack of opportunities inform the model we are currently creating that, okay, let's build a talent marketplace, modeling Upwork, Fiverr, and Delaware all together and making it focus on early stage startups, both in Africa and outside Africa. Because our goal for us, it doesn't matter whether you are in Lusaka or you are in Conakry or you are in Kano in Nigeria. All it matters is that you have internet, you are resilient, you have the right mindset, you have the attitude, and you can deliver value to any company anywhere in the world without needing to travel through the Mediterranean Sea. So for us, that was the motivation. Another motivation was young people keep on traveling outside the continent because there's no opportunity, right? We're not solving the unemployment problem in Africa. No, we are paying lip service. There's different youth programs all over the continent. If you go to Kenya, you see youth programs. If you go to Zimbabwe, South Africa, Nigeria, we are doing this, we are doing that. But I want to just use Nigeria as a case study. In the last 10 years, government of Nigeria have paid lip service to different youth programs. But it took young people like Shola and Ezra, his co-founder in Paystack, and the rest to come out with a startup called Paystack. And in 6 years, they exited $200 million. Right? Today, these guys are multiplying their wealth through venture investment. And if you check, the Nigerian tech ecosystem has created more wealth in the last 10 years than the oil has created. So we decided, look, for us to commercialize tech talent and make all African young people see that the future of your wealth is not the certificate you have, but in acquisition of skill, because the world today is about skill you have, what you can do, not the certificate you have. So Aya is doing two things at the same time: training, mentoring, education, and giving you the right skills and the tools to enable you with the right mindset to work with any company anywhere in the world while staying wherever you are, without the urge to wanting to travel to foreign countries, bridging that gap. And then payment will make you receive your payment in stable coin directly into your wallet using the blockchain technology or cryptocurrency stable coin. So therefore, we're solving the problem of losing 25% of your income. Two, we're solving also access, the lack of access through the IRB platform, because I become the trusted platform with which an American startup, an American founder can come and hire you because they know that Aya has positioned themselves as the gateway or as a bridge between talent and businesses anywhere they are in the world.
Thank you for that, Eric. So you detailed that you spoke to young people around Africa to determine there was a need for the business in Africa. You're based in Ghana, but I believe the company is incorporated in Delaware, United States.
Correct.
What is the reason for that? Why are we seeing so many African startups registering their businesses outside of Africa, specifically in areas or locations such as Delaware?
That's a very interesting question. Not until Africans understand venture funding, not until those who have access to resources understand that we win or we lose together, not until the nation Africa understand that wealth is created through ventures, not through politics, we will never have young Africans harnessing their potential. So why is it that a lot of startups are registering in Delaware? Well, if you're a founder like me who has toiled, used his savings, struggling, sacrificing day and night, and you wake up tomorrow and then there's a government policy that says that you cannot deposit $1, you cannot withdraw $1 without recourse to the ecosystem. Delaware is a place where those who have the resources, who are willing to experiment, who are willing to bet, who are willing to take advantage of the governing ecosystem in Africa, tech ecosystem in Africa, they are more interested to see you in Delaware because Delaware has a very open system. Their laws are very open. It's democratized. You don't wake up and say, because you are a black guy, your company is shut down. So long as you follow the rules, you're okay. Largely, it's number one, resources. The resources that we need to be able to scale our startup, the investors, those who have the resources, and largely, you have about 80% of investors in Africa being Americans.
Yeah.
So it's easier for you to set up a company in Delaware than set up a company in Ghana. It's easier to have access to resources in Delaware. For example, you set up in Delaware, if you use a platform, you can get access to other services like cloud and other things for credit for free. No African company understands these things. And we are still in the era of competition. So our big companies, instead of creating a holistic support system, you don't do that. You send your idea to them. The next thing you see, you're trying to implement it.
Yes.
But whereas in America, you have likes of Amazon, Google, helping nurture new startups. They don't care about your idea. Yes, they may take it, but they're more willing to give you an open support rather than, here, I've experienced it, like I mentioned to you. But I have experienced this bad faith where you share your idea and then the next time you see, they don't even talk to you again, and you see it being implemented. So until we solve those mental problems, we solve those myopic, backward in terms of always seeing things in the form of competition and not seeing things in the form of cooperation and collaboration, I think young Africans will be more comfortable to set up in Delaware because they easily access YC, they can easily access Techstar, they can easily access Tiger Global, they can easily access all these ventures that are investing massively into the African. I'll ask a question. How many wealthy men in Africa do you see them investing in tech?
Yes.
You have the Dangotes, you have the Jim Ovias, you have all these guys. I mean, these guys prefer to, still invest in brick and mortar, but people don't know that everything's going to be code. Everything's going to be computer code. So tech is our opportunity for Africa to actually really recreate wealth faster, cheaper, and en masse. A lot of these guys don't understand tech. And they'll tell you, because I don't understand, I don't invest in it. I want to invest in something that is safe, that's easy, treasury bill, bond, and all those things. Whereas young people are smart, they are resilient, they have the skill, they have the talent, they want to create businesses and create. Look, America did not become America without Silicon Valley. And Silicon Valley is the biggest wealth creator in the world. Wasn't it easier for the government of Nigeria has set up a tech hub, where young people just come, just code and take coffee and tea in the evening, take amala and go home. If we experiment that, in the next 10 years, Nigeria will take more than 100 million people out of poverty. If Ghana decides to do the same thing, young people, all the 16 regions, we have tech hubs. Come and code, come and learn a skill. Take a coffee or take a tea. In the evening, take fufu or jollof rice and go. How much would that cost? In 10 years, we'll reduce unemployment by 70% in 10 years. So I'm saying one of the reasons why a lot of us register our business in Delaware is that there's friendliness, regulation is okay, policy-wise, investors are comfortable to play with you. They don't care whether you do the business there. You just have to register in Delaware and then have your operation anywhere in Africa. It doesn't matter, right? But you want to ensure that your IP is well protected so that tomorrow somebody decides to, until we get to the point where we have really, really liberal, very democratic. I mean, the system are working. You don't need to know somebody in the court to be able to get your case win. And then people are now maybe will change that approach. But for now, you have to follow the money.
No, I totally understand the push and pull factors that make African startups register their companies in places such as Delaware. And it's great to actually get your experience or your insight into why you have done that. So I think we could probably talk about that all day, but obviously that's not the focus of today's conversation. I want to talk a bit more about Aya. So with regards to what you do with Aya, it is a platform for talent employment. There are a few talent employment platforms available these days. So I was wondering, what is Aya's value proposition? What differentiates Aya from other platforms that offer talent recruitment?
That's another very interesting question. So when we set out to start Aya, we have tested a lot of hypothesis models, but we did not want to just build a product that we feel was the solution, right? So we use what they call the feedback approach, constantly engaging people, constantly engaging founders, constantly talking to people that are in the space, right? So we are doing much more than just creating a hiring platform like Upwork or cryptocurrency wallet. What we are doing different here is this. After talking to over 700 people, including founders in US, Canada, UK, Nigeria, Kenya, and Zambia, in addition to Ghana and South Africa, what we realized was this. People think that there's shortage of talent, right? Talent migration here and there. Apple, Microsoft, Google, they are in Kenya. They are giving big check for talent to move from one startup. So one key thing that we realized was that no one is building a new startup talent ecosystem. For example, if you work in JP Morgan,
yes,
and then you came to work in a startup, doesn't mean that you'll be successful.
No, you require a whole different mindset.
Exactly. So the a lot of problems, a lot of startups are facing in Africa and even elsewhere is that you have these big boys. Yeah, they have the experience. They can come and scale. But in the first 18 months, you don't need scalers. You need builders. You need people who come in and buy into the why. Why are we doing this? They buy into the vision and they are willing to be honest. They are willing to take ownership and build that mindset. You don't say, what if? They say, why not? And no talent platform today in the world has refocused talent for startups. And Aya is the first to say, we are building a new paradigm shift. We are building because startup is the game changer. Africa is just about to start. We've seen that, we are flat away. I'm saying entrepreneurship is about to take shape in Africa. We have not still solved up to 1% of our problem. So what it means that we are going to see multiple startups. The quality of the founder, the quality of the startup determine the quality of people in that startup. And therefore, if we are not solving the problem by creating a new paradigm shift in terms of mindset, which is why we came out with a model called the PACE. I'm going to share that model for the first time on your platform.
Brilliant.
So what is PACE? PACE simply means problem solving, adapting, creative, and empathy. That's the IR model we are using to approach the mapping ecosystem we are building because we don't want to waste founders and recruiters' time. Many people hire and then they waste their money, but the time you waste, you can never retrieve it back. So we want to cut down the time wasting and ensure that the talent that we connect you with has the mindset that will enable you build. So what does the PACE do? When you model the PACE through our vetting, we realize that we get to find people who have the right startup mindset, talent who have the right skill set, and talent who have the right tool set to enable you to take off without delays. And that's the difference Aya is doing. We are focused on early stage startups. Pre-seed, ideation to say, this is our major focus. But of course, along the line, if we get to a point where we have massive traction and Apple comes to us that we're looking for, Apple still operates as a startup. Even Google, in recent times, their CEO says that every employee of Google should begin to think like a startup, an entrepreneur.
Yes.
With greater focus on productivity without wasting much time. Even Google, with a huge war chest, can go ahead to say, you need to think like a startup talent. It means that our model is actually the future. And we are happy to say we are starting a new system called the PACE, which we believe will become the standard for which every recruitment agency would use to recruit people.
Thank you for that, Eric. So you've detailed, I guess, your value proposition is creating a new paradigm shift, changing mindset, and the PACE model. So Aya is a curated marketplace for early stage startups and businesses to access vetted African digital skills talent. Are you seeing more African or non-African companies accessing your services?
That's another very sensitive question.
Feel free to answer how you feel comfortable.
Yeah. For me, I don't believe in subjective honesty. I mean, as people will say, sometimes you need to be modest. I believe you need to be you, right?
Yes.
I mean, you don't expect everybody to like you, and I don't expect everybody to like me. And I think that I have my model that works for me. Being brutally honest, being brutally sincere, even when it's going to affect me, I think it has been part of my livelihood from childhood. This question you asked me is very, very sensitive. And this is how I'm going to answer it. So today, we still believe in paper certificate rather than the skill that you have. A lot of African business do not respect talent. They respect what's your certificate, what's your qualification.
Yes.
Today in the tech space, if you go to the Valley, people don't ask you whether you went to Stanford. You say you are a backend engineer with a 5 years experience in JavaScript. Okay, this is your project, work it. After you deliver, they don't ask you, who's your father? Where did you go to school? We are in a skill world. We are in a world of skill. We are no more in the brick and mortar world. But our people are still failing to catch up. And therefore, we cannot wait for them to catch up. We know they will come. We know Africa will always do the catch up. We know in places where Africa has kind of done what we call leapfrogging. I mean, for example, mobile, using your cell to do financial transactions. Africa invented it. Nobody can take that value from us. Kenya, for example, we need to pay Kenya for using your mobile number as a bank. We did it. Africa did it. And it's our invention.
Yes.
Whether you want to change the narrative or whatever, we know it's from Africa. But in many instances, we do not respect skills, talent, which is why you go to some companies, not until now, IT guys in the banks in Nigeria were not respected. But today, because they are moving out, the banks are now beginning to set up a special unit for the innovation centers, right? It was treated like a side joint. So my point is that Africans have to catch up to realize that we are no more in the era of brick and mortar. Yes, we are still going to have brick and mortar play a role because without even, code without a human being, I say technology is nothing if people are not ready to use it, right? So if you build a technology and then you don't have people in the equation, that technology doesn't work. However, we have to always be able to be constantly innovating. So the talent that we have, the kind of traffic we are getting from US, Canada, UK. And because people don't really respect talent and skill, they are unwilling to really come out and pay price for it, right? And if I have the skill and Amazon is calling me to give me $10,000 per month, and you are here, you say, oh, I'll give you $2 per month. Chief, would you say, because I'm African, I'm lawyer, and therefore I will sacrifice my own family and future because I have to be loyal to my continent? No. I don't have to answer that question. So I'm saying that value should follow value. Our loyalty should be value. Are you bringing value to the table? If yes, what's the fair market value I need to be able to compensate you with so they can continue to create value? I think if you begin to have that conversation about value creation, instead of where do you come from, what school did you go? Okay, he has two masters in operations, he has 3 masters in an MBA. We go nowhere, and therefore talent will continue to migrate to places where they respect them.
Thank you for that, Eric. So you've detailed the importance of respecting talent and valuing talent as well. In the past few years, interest in the Africa tech economy has increased, and I guess as a consequence of that, global firms are looking at the continent to access the tech talent on the continent. Has this impacted what you do?
Absolutely. Recently, there's a report by Conferry. It's one of the biggest consulting and research firms. They project that by the year 2030, there's going to be $8.5 trillion talent shortage. $8.5 trillion talent shortage.
Wow.
The basis for that research is that, like I said, everything is moving to the code. There's going to be so much problem that will be solved, but there will not be enough people who have the skill to fill those roles. And like I said, Africa, we are just about to even start our tech journey. We just still step zero, if I may put it that way.
Yeah.
That means that the interest for African tech entrepreneurship startups is going to plateau, increase. In fact, we are going to see exponential growth in the next 2-3 years. We are going to see every day, more than 100 startups recording maybe $100,000 increase in investment in the next 2-3 years. It's going to happen in Africa. That means that there should be a new and a different approach to increase the supply side of the talent. Indians have used technology to lift more than 100 million people out of poverty. If you take 45 companies in the world, you see the C-level executive, most of them are Indians.
Yes.
The middle level executive, most of them are Indians. The operational guys, most of them are Indians. Why? There was a very intentional approach to harness, train skills that were relevant. Until we take that approach holistically from the government level, we individuals, private sector, have to invest so much in talent training and skill acquisition approach so that we can be able to supply them to business that need them. In fact, in the next 1-2 years, I believe the IIA was going to be the central point where a lot of African startups will come to say, hey, we need a community manager, we need a business analyst, we need a back-end engineer, mid-level, not senior level, mid-level or entry level, because we can pay entry to say, mid-level, guys, help us because your model is working. We will see a lot of African startups hiring very senior talent that really have startup mindset. Like I said, we need to build a strong startup talent who come in and don't say, this is how we do it. But they say, why not? And that's the future we are seeing in the African tech ecosystem, and we're just about to start. It's going to be exciting. And we're going to use the tech to reduce poverty, to take more than 200 million out of poverty in Africa, from Nigeria to Zanzibar. Tech will enable us to reduce poverty and create economic growth across all sectors.
I 100% agree with what you've said. I recently read a report by a tech recruitment firm called Tunga, and they said that there were something around 114,000 software developers in Nigeria, which I think is pretty low for a country with a population of over 200 million. From your point of view, how can we invest in creating more tech talent in Africa?
Two things. First of all, I think policy-wise, again, I'm happy to see the National Assembly of Nigeria has finally assent to the startup bill, which has been pushed to the president to finally assent to it. And if that happens, I believe Nigerian startup bill or law will become one of the best. Before that, we have one from Kenya, Senegal, I think Tunisia, and Rwanda has an amazing startup tech-enabled policies. I think it's all starts from the policy point of view, right? If our governments across the continent begin to see innovation as a catalyst of growth and then use old-fashioned rules and regulation to stifle it, I think that will start from there. If you are an investor and the system do not allow you to have hope in investing in an area, the policy is not coherent, there's fragmentation of policies, then it creates a kind of fear for those who have to invest in it. That's number one. Number two, I think it's, again, government also need to increase its programs with the universities, collaborate with the universities and private sector to kind of rebuild the curriculum. Because I will tell you, African curriculum across the universities are old system that is not solving any problem for any. And so until we solve that, things are going to be tough for Africans, which is why you see in Nigeria, you see CC Hub and different. In fact, Nigeria has a lot of hubs in Africa more than any other place, followed by Kenya and then South Africa, right? The more hubs we have, the more interest we will see. And the more we see success stories from other founders, other entrepreneurs, the more the interest would hook other young people to begin to skill instead of just going to school to get a certificate and come back home and become unemployed. In Ghana, for example, they have something they call Graduate Unemployment Association, right? And what is that? Because we know why. Every society's narrative is shaped by their perception, and their perception shapes their perspective. And the media confronted that. So if you came to Ghana, for example, you realize that a lot of young people are not even talking about technology. Because when you wake up as a Ghanaian in the morning, all you hear is political conversation. In the afternoon, you are hearing sports programs. I'm talking about how Liverpool lost a game 10 years ago. Now, how does that increase value for a young man who needs information to change his perspective, right? So we need to invest more on education. We need to create more awareness and let government support the private sector to invest more in the training hubs, educational hubs that will seek to train hundreds and thousands of people every year. I mean, Aya is doing training. We are only doing 100. You can only do so much. Even with the support of Coinbase Giving, we just received a grant to start training people so that they can have the skill they need to be able to get employment. Imagine government across the continent say, this is our policy. In the next 5 years, we want to train 10 million people who have skills in computer software, product design. It can become a huge revenue generation for government. Easily go to Silicon Valley and have a deal with Google to say, hey, come, let's do this. We train them, you help them with internship, they get the right skill set, they are hired, and then you pay us something. If you don't have those plans, then it's going to be a challenge. And therefore, the numbers you see in Nigeria, in fact, there's little over 800,000 technical skilled engineers in Africa. South Africa leads with engineers in Africa, followed by Kenya, followed by Nigeria, right? And then Uganda. Ghana is not where to be found. Okay. Right? Technical skills, software engineer is the future. So if you can invest more in IT, in software engineering, practical software engineering, that's what these guys are doing at OSCO Africa, amazing concepts. And we believe we need more people, more of this initiative, because one person cannot do it. OSCO cannot do it alone. IR Fellowship cannot do it alone. Thai Lab cannot do it alone. side hustle cannot do it alone. We need a concerted team effort. The plan should be that Africa, we need to create or build or graduate 1 million software engineers every year. Even if they're not going to be employed, guess what? They can solve their own problem. They can start their own business. And that's going to increase the quality of startup, the quality of solution that we'll see across the continent. So investment in technology, investment in talent is not waste. In fact, it's a future. We have to be there from now.
So you've detailed how we can invest in creating more tech talent in Africa. I was hoping you could give us more information from, I guess, your perspective in terms of what you're providing in terms of solutions to some of the challenges that are faced with regards to the shortage of tech talent in Africa.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that question. And we did not have control over the talent that were already in the market. So we went back to the drawing board and asked ourselves 2 questions. If you really want to push a new paradigm and be able to be successful with the PACE model and becomes a kind of a central pivot, a reference point, then you need to think through how to solve that problem. How widespread is the problem? How steep is the talent gap? Then we realize that it is very steep. Awareness was also number 1. The kind of awareness you have in Nigeria is not the same you have in Ghana, or you have in, say, for example, in Togo, or for example, you have in Burkina Faso or Mali. So how do we bring the tech conversation to a bigger perspective? We need to have our own way of creating our own supply ecosystem through partnership. So we went through with partnership. So we partner with the likes of Side Hustle, the likes of Ghana Tech Lab, the likes of Thai Lab, who already are training. These are all training and platforms that they train talent to get these skills. But we also realize that they are already trained, but nobody's training people using the PACE model. So we developed a proposal, and then we got point-based giving, look into it, and it was, wow, this is really fascinating. We support you. So we received some grants to pilot the Aya Web3 Fellowship. The truth of the matter is that Web3 is not just a fad. If you remember, in the days, 30 years ago, people said the internet was a fad, and therefore it's going to just be a passing history, right?
Yes.
But we are here today. Nothing can be done today in this world without the internet.
True.
In fact, your air, the time will come, even the air that you breathe will be powered by the internet. So the internet is providing a very vital role in the socio-economic life of everybody who lives and breathes on this planet. The same way that people are talking about the Web3 being a fad, we are going to see the Web3 become the central point where everybody have converged. Because for me, the Web3 is not just about cryptocurrency. The Web3 is psychological, it's economical, it's philosophy, it's social, it's entertainment, it's education, all put together. It's the only innovation or technology stack that has encompassed everything all together. And it's the only innovation that I see that Africa could play a huge role because nobody owns the IP.
True.
Nobody owns the IP. And so we want to train Web3 talents in product design, product management, back end and front end, or in the Web3, how to write smart contract, Solidity, and on top of that, this 5-track using the Aya model, 6-month intensive training, 3 months internship. If you prove yourself to be good, then we can now explore our partnership with other organizations. Like, for example, Coinbase has a portfolio companies all over the world. They are startups. You're looking to hire talent from Africa so that they can save 40% of their costs, and Aya provide that. We are not giving our talent cheaply, but we know that US standard of living is different from Africa, right? So once you spend about $100,000 to hire a talent in the Valley, you can as well get the same talent in Africa and pay about 80 to 120K. And this talent will give his neck and deliver for you. Because that's it. If you're a dude, you live in Africa, you live in Accra, Nairobi, or Lagos, and you are getting 120K, guy, you deliver. You deliver because you change the entire family tree
Yes.
of your generation in 1 year. So for us, it's very important. It's very evident that we are not just doing something that is just facing out. We believe that we are just at early stages. Like I said, $8.5 trillion talent gap by the year 2030, and we are in 2022. So 8 years from now, that's the market we are targeting. So we are just targeting, let's just capture 1% of the market and deliver 10 million talent from Africa who have the right skill, the right mindset, the right tool set, and have gone through the pace to deliver on their own startups or join a startup that will build the next biggest Google for Africa.
Brilliant, brilliant. So if we look outside of the talent and training gap and look at the opportunities, what type of opportunities are available via the Aya platform?
Interesting. Great question. Again, you cannot solve all the problem at a go. So when we started, we wanted to do everything, but we realized that no, that was going to be overwhelming. So we are nearly down to 5 tracks. We want to focus and become the master of the game in this area, which is community manager. Look, the success of every startup going forward is about your community, because the Web3 has shown us how sharing economy works. In the Web2, it's all about the companies. The users or the customers or the consumers don't have anything in return. In the Web3, it's the opposite. In the Web3, it's about the user, it's about the customer, it's about the consumer. How do you think about rewarding me using your platform? How do you say that if I use your platform, you become successful, stick to it? And then if you check again, a lot of companies globally are beginning to look into business as a conscious business, where the entire stakeholders are important. And therefore, having a strong community management strategy is key. So Aya is building one of the most robust community management talents for startups all over the world. So you need a community manager to manage your Discord, you need a community manager to manage your Telegram, you need a community manager to manage your Twitter, your Instagram. Come to Aya. Number 2, product design. Look, we have incredible talent when it comes to product design in Africa.
Yes.
Especially in Nigeria. Incredible designers in Africa. So we want to focus on that product design and the product management. In addition to that, business analyst. Look, I'll give an example. There was this founder who contacted us for a business analyst. And she said, this was what she said. She has been hiring this business analyst and paying huge sum of money, and she never got the result. We got her this talent, and in 2 weeks, this guy was able to kind of draw a proper business architecture and analyze her business. And guess what? She saved 60% of the salary she was paying to other people. And in 2 weeks, this guy was able to help this founder access a grant of more than $20,000.
Wow.
And was able to shape a business for her. She came and said, wow, Eric, how do you get these guys? I said, well, we believe that founders need to attract the best talent. And she became our evangelist. In fact, she recommended more than 20 founders for us from Australia to UK that if you are looking for talent, go to these guys. So that's how the Aya model is going. Community manager, product design, business analyst, product management, entry level and mid-level. For senior, it's becoming practically difficult because the senior ones, most of them are building their own startups, so they are unwilling to join another startup. So entry to mid-level, when it comes to back end, front end, we provide. So 5 track for now. In future, we'll add other level. And we have seen that there's huge demand for business analysts and community management across all channels.
Amazing, amazing. So you've detailed the current opportunities on the platform and how you're positioning yourself for future opportunities. So if we look at, I guess, the future in terms of what trends we expect, what current trends in Africa's tech talent space are you currently excited about?
People are beginning to see the opportunity in tech. So you see that we have Nigerian Ghana tech community, Zambia, Zimbabwe tech community, and people are engaging, share ideas, right? And I see another trend where successful founders are beginning to also invest, plug back into the society. A typical example is the founder of Mono, Abubakar Hassan. I think he's incredibly showing a great trait of leadership. In the last 2 years, he has invested in over 40 startups. We supported them to get access to YC. I think that's a great trend because you see, every society's success is not determined by the few who have. The success of every society is determined by the sacrifices those at the top are willing to make for those out on ground. You can see a lot of founders who have seen success, like the Paysta guy, the Flutterway guys, the Kobo 360 guy, the Mono guys, who have really seen real success in the last 6 years and begin to see a growth mindset, begin to use the growth mindset and begin to see the bigger picture and not use the old system where few people want to be worshipped, want to be seen as lost, but see that, look, our success remains success if only you can help those who are also coming. I think that will be an amazing trend. That will also help us to have African-owned resources investing in our startups. Because as it stands today, the sources we are seeing, 90% are not owned by Africans. That is truth, because the VCs are not from Africa. So if you don't have enough Africans investing in this venture, and then the success or the wealth is retained, then there's going to be a major challenge in the future. I mean, I am very, very capitalist-minded, but I am very conscious capitalist. I think that I cannot say Africa should invest in African startup, but it is just normal and proper, because if the lion fails to tell his story, the hunter will not stop to narrate the story to his own interest. So it's just a for thought.
Thank you for that, Eric. You've detailed that you're currently excited about the collaboration that you're seeing in the ecosystem, and also founders who have been successful are becoming funders and the potential it has for the future. So if we keep to the theme of, say, the future of Africa, where do you see Africa in 5 years' time from a tech talent and recruitment perspective?
Well, in 5 years, I want to be futuristic in my thoughts. I think in 5 years, we are going to see more quality founders from Africa. The quality of startups, solution that they are building or product that they are solving is going to increase. We're going to see a lot of funding for startups. So, for example, it takes a minimum of 6 to 1 year for African founder to raise $100,000. In most cases, it takes about just a month to raise $100K in the US. I see that changing in the next 5 years, where founders will easily raise a minimum of $100K to test their idea. We'll see more Africans beginning to also become angel investors and enter into the private equity landscape, which is going to be a good sign. In 5 years, I see more talent supporting the ecosystem. We're going to see a lot of young people channel their energy into tech, because they will realize that the only option they have to solve their economic problem is not to rely on government paycheck, or it's not to rely on government handouts, but to take their own destiny into their own hands, get out to be counted and not being entitled, but willing to sacrifice. Because I see a lot of young people feeling so entitled, right? I mean, they feel like we need to have it. You need to put in the effort first. You need to have an apprenticeship mindset. You don't start a tech journey and become earning $100,000 a month or a year. It doesn't happen that way. There's a period of sowing. There's a period of harvest. In between the two, you need to put in a lot of effort. So in 5 years, I see the number growing from just 800,000 software engineers in Africa to about 10 million in the next 5 years. The quality of founders across the board would increase, where you have a lot of technical founders, because I am not a technical founder, which is why I have faced some challenges. Because if I was a technical founder, I can do my own coding, then I don't need so much people. The moment idea comes, I'm doing that. We don't have a lot of them in Africa. So the support of Aya and other startups doing talent development, talent training, we will be able to have a lot of founders across Africa having the technical skill, being software engineers themselves, and building solutions that they are very, very, very passionate about. They are committed to it. Their why is strong. And again, in conclusion, in 5 years, we'll see a lot of wealth created for Africans by Africans and remaining in Africa. That's how I see in the next 5 years coming. And it's going to be interesting and exciting. And anyone who is waiting, watching, sitting on the sidelines, watching and not doing anything, holding his money or her money in Swiss accounts in Cayman Island, you better advise yourself. Your wealth should not be how much you accumulated in hidden accounts. Your wealth should be defined by how many people you will help to unearth their talent, their skill. I mean, you supported to be able to also create wealth. I think the only thing we can do is to recreate wealth for ourselves. Go back of Africans being together, being collaborative, being supportive. We need to re-energize that. We need to rekindle that. And we need to bring that spirit back, because the young people are agile, they are desirous, they are resilient, they are determined, they are hardworking, and they are open to solve problems for Africa so we can all create wealth.
Thank you. So if we look closer to home, where do you see yourself and Aya in 5 years' time?
In 5 years, simply we want to become the talent infrastructure as a service. We want to be able to be a platform where you come, you just subscribe, and then you have access to a pool of great talent, documentation, everything, payroll, compliance. We take that off you, and so that you can focus on your business, your strategy, and your partnership. But when it comes to talent, we want to become the center where you just come subscribe and then we take all those off you. In 5 years, we want Aya to become and so much impactful to have been able to train over 10 million talent for global businesses to say, wow, the narrative about Africa is not what I knew before. The narrative of Africa is that you have access to talent who are very robust, agile, resilient, are open-minded, culturally fit, communication great, and above all, they bring joy, entertainment, they bring humanity. Because at the end of the day, Tese, work should not just be about numbers. We have to begin to see work as a place where your mental health is not increased, but rather you are in a place where you see people as people or human as human and you see numbers as numbers. We need to have a working environment where people are not afraid to make mistakes. We need to create a working environment where people feel belong. We need to create an environment where ideas don't just emanate from the top. We need to create a working environment where ideas emanate bottom up, vice versa. And I believe create an environment of self-identity, mutual respect, equality, and diversity is the only way and the beginning of creating a healthy, more encompassing, more collaborative, and more energizing environment so that people can give all their best and have ownership mindset and have an approach to solve problems, not just to work for the money. I think these are indicators, these are prerequisites to having people working for the why, not for the money. Because if you treat people as people, they work for the why. They don't work for the money. But if you treat them as numbers, they only work for the numbers.
Amen. Amen. I agree. I definitely think there's huge amounts of potential with what you're offering in terms of a solution to Africa's challenges with regards to tech talent. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on Aya and seeing how things progress.
Thank you.
Quote of the week.
As people, we often have quotes, mantras, African proverbs, or even affirmations that we use to keep us going when times are good or when times are challenging. Do you have one that you can share with us today?
Well, one of the most oldest African adage, which I believe I still run in my thing that I do, is the Ubuntu story.
Yes.
And the Ubuntu story talk about you are because I am, and I am because you are. And for us to create a new Africa, everybody says that this time is Africa. Yes, I agree. But we can only achieve the African resurgence, the African resilience, the African empowerment, economic miracle, only when we go back to the Ubuntu. You are because I am, and I am because you are.
What a fantastic way to come to the end of the conversation. But before we close today's conversation, do you have any closing remarks and final calls to action for anyone who's interested in tech talent in Africa or just interested in speaking to you and understanding a bit more about Aya?
Well, my last and then final comment will be that fear is not in the absence of danger, but the courage, the character to stand, even when you know there's fear ahead, is the difference between those in the trenches or in the arena and those on the sideline. And for us at Aya, we are just getting started. We are very open to support the tech ecosystem across Africa. We are open for feedback. We are open for partnerships. We believe that we at Aya, we are just solving a piece, a part of the problem. But the bigger problem will be solved through collaboration. And we're looking forward to working with every startup founder across Africa and beyond. We're looking forward to working with VCs who are very passionate about the African tech ecosystem. Your investment can grow if you also pay attention to investing in those of us who are also working in the talent supply ecosystem. But the quality of talent we have will determine the quality of the startup journey and the success factor that we see. Because there's a research that has shown that among 3 top things every startup need, apart from funding is the last 3. The first is the team. The second is the idea. The third, perhaps, is the funding. If you have the wrong team, you can raise $1 billion and you still not be able to scale. So we believe we have to solve the talent problem. And if we are calling on all VCs to support some of us so that we can bring this model and commercialize it and scale it so that we can support the global tech ecosystem beyond Africa. And I look forward to a future conversation where in a few years, Aya will be where we are. CNN will be talking about us, and then we can reference that, oh, we were featured by this amazing team at ETK, who brought us to the limelight. And we are grateful to have had the opportunity to talk to you and your team.
Fantastic. I couldn't have thought of a better way to close today's conversation. That has been an extremely insightful and enjoyable conversation, Eric. Thank you for joining me on the podcast today. You've definitely given me some food for thought and some amazing discussion points. Thanks for being so open and candid with your answers as well. And once again, thank you for giving us your valuable time and sharing your knowledge and experience with us.
Thank you. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to share my perspective. And all these things are my personal perspective. Some of them are not perspective of what I stand for. Some of them are my personal perspective, my personal opinions. So I hope your audience and your community would look at it and have a very open-minded approach to listen to it and take those that can work for them. But we're looking forward to working with the entire global tech community and have conversation like this. The more we have conversation and have dialogue, the better we can shape our perception and our perspective to enrich and broaden the entire journey together.
I agree 100%. It's about communication, and also, as you've pointed out a few times, it's about collaboration as well. So yes, 100% in agreement, Eric. So thank you, and we will speak soon.
Thank you. Have a wonderful time. Bye-bye.
Thank you to everyone who has listened and stayed tuned to the podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, or tell a friend about it. You can also rate, review us in Apple Podcasts or wherever you download your podcast. Thank you, and see you next week for the Unlocking Africa podcast.